Hey, welcome. This is Luminara Serdar, founder of Autism Transformed. I am speaking today and happy to answer your questions on brain inflammation in autism because it's most likely present. And I'm just going to do one. Okay, great. I can see myself better in what I'm doing. So welcome to those of you joining, talking about brain inflammation in autism. And before I jump into that, while I'm waiting for more people to come on this live, which will be turned into a reel, I wanted to say that I have a ton of free resources. So if you are a parent who has done maybe ABA, speech therapy, OT, physical therapy, I talk to parents who do a lot of therapies. If you tried gluten-free, casein-free diet, or even if you haven't, you probably need to do more for your child because of what's going on in the brain with inflammation and probably in the gut. So I wanted to share some free resources with you. If you go to my website, autismtransformed.com, then you can download a free e-guide I have called 10 Free Actions to Help Shift Autism Behaviors. You'll get on our mailing list, and you can always pop off if you don't want to receive our emails. So that's a free thing. On my blog, I have a lot of good recipes like chicken nuggets and French fries that you can make at home because we know a lot of kids eat chicken nuggets and French fries. I have some summer frozen pop recipes. I think I have at least one in there, and a detox smoothie. So those are some really practical things that you can use. And then I have other blog articles on anxiety and aggression and tantrums and stims. And really, I'm looking at things from a root cause. What is in the body that's creating these behaviors, these actions, these autism symptoms? And so you can read more about it there. It is not therapy by any means, and so it's a different approach. So that's why I want to give you some free resources. I also have a YouTube channel, Autism Transformed, so you can go there and look at past videos and putting new stuff up there all the time. So let's get into today's topic of brain inflammation. And I might pop over and look at my notes just to make sure I cover everything. So what I believe is happening in the brain is a lot of inflammation, and this is why the neurons aren't connecting and we're not developing the proper neural networks. So if your child's not speaking, the speech isn't coming out, or if you talk to your child and they have a really delayed response, it could be an auditory processing issue and or sensory processing issue, all the sensory things. There's stimming, there's the loud noises where kids are covering their ears, there's texture and taste issues in the mouth. I know a lot of kids love hard squeezes as a sensory thing, or don't want to be touched in certain ways, or just really want to be isolated because the world is kind of too much because their brain isn't handling things right. And this is because the brain isn't developing properly, and probably most likely because there's inflammation. And if there's inflammation in the brain, there is inflammation in the gut. So a lot of these issues go together. There's a two-way communication channel between the gut and the brain. Even our microbes can go up this channel, and we have a microbial environment in the brain. And we don't have an immune system. We have the neurons, and then we have glial cells. And the glial cells are what's the nervous or the immune system up in the brain. So we don't have like our regular immune system cells, but we have our own special immune system in the brain. And then that can be inflamed, and there can be a lot of inflammatory markers. And then our neurotransmitters aren't working correctly, and the cells are just not connecting, so they're not communicating, and so they're not developing. And if your child has a heavy metal, maybe it's aluminum, maybe it's mercury. I've seen a lot of other things like uranium. I've seen mold toxins, pesticides, herbicides, plastic mimickers, all these industrial chemicals we have in our personal care products. They get in our food, air, and water, and they can be in the gut. They can leak into the brain. If we have a leaky gut, which a lot of our kids do, It's inflamed, and the cells, they're not close together like they should be, so there's space in between the cells, and food particles can leak out. So if your child has rashes, sensitivity, eczema, psoriasis, just skin issues, and maybe they get red cheeks after eating, red ears, or some kind of facial, maybe a rash. This is, possibly leaky gut. If there's anger, aggression after eating, especially gluten, it's a leaky gut. And our gut barrier with these cells that are supposed to stay together, it's similar to the blood-brain barrier. So our brain has a whole barrier around it. So certain chemicals don't get in from our blood system, but we want toxins from the brain to get out. And what do I mean by toxins? Every single cell in our body does work every day. There's a ton of biochemical reactions, some say 6 million every second, going on in our cells. And these biochemical reactions convert one compound into another, and then to another, into another. There's a whole system, kind of like a factory converting something, and you get an end product. And anything along the way can be blocked. But as our cells do these processes, they create waste, which means something that the cell doesn't need anymore. And we want to be able to get that out of the cell, transport it to where it needs to go, and then have the body either recycle or utilize that for something else. Also, our hormones that are produced, say in our adrenals or the brain, these need to be able to get in and out of the brain. So there's certain controls, but if we have a leaky blood-brain barrier, that means toxins can get into the brain easily, which causes the inflammation, and that our cellular waste products can get out. But a lot of times our cell membranes aren't working well if we have inflammation, and so the system isn't working well. So I just wanted to say something about consistent inflammation. So also a lot of our kids have chronic infections. So that can be in the gut mostly, but it can be all over the body, and it can even be in the brain. And these infections, these pathogens, also produce toxins, and sometimes they can be very nasty, like mold and fungus. Like if your child has candida, the toxins are not fun to live with. You see, a lot of kids I will hear have this laughter that comes up for apparently no reason, like they're just playing quietly and then all of a sudden they're laughing. This is a sign of candida and yeast. Toe walking can be a sign of that. Rashes, of course, and craving carbohydrates can be a sign of yeast. And I think candida is there a lot of times to sequester heavy metals. It really likes mercury, so it has this relationship. Candida and mercury have this relationship, and this is why our microbes kind of get out of control, the bad guys, because we have toxins in there, and they're like, oh, yum, 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 I'll eat that up. And they're helping us, but they produce their own kind of toxic waste. So we have chronic infections, we have other toxicities, and then even when we clear those out, our cells can be stuck in what's called the cell danger response. So our cells will normally, I mentioned earlier, they do work. They do what's called anabolic functions. So they build protein, right? They make our skin heal. Our cells our organs do have different functions that they do. Our heart, pumps the blood and it's a strong muscle. Our muscles do work. Our different organs do work. And so if these guys are in this anabolic mode, meaning building, our kids are developing and building all the time, right? We see growth, and we see our hair and our nails grow. So this is anabolic. And when we're stuck in the cell danger response, what happens is, I'm gonna give an example, like a village, a tribal village. Everyone's happy, and there's baskets that are being made, and clay pots that are being made, and food that's being cooked, and maybe some hunting, some gardening, and then a neighboring village comes in and invades, and everyone has to put down what they're doing and pick up their spears or their arms or whatever to protect themselves. This is what's happening in the cells, that the cells have to put down the growth building things they're doing, and become defensive. And so what happens is the cell membrane gets tough. It doesn't want to let things in. And if there's an invader inside, it doesn't want to let it out and spread to the other cells. And then all the cellular energy from the mitochondria is spent on defending, and we're not growing. And we're not doing all these regular cellular processes we're supposed to do. And so you might see your child's lethargic, right? Because they're spending all their energy on defense inside. You know, we don't necessarily see this on the outside. So they're spending this energy on just blocking invaders. And there's a whole set of processes that happens in the cell danger response. And one of those is that if I'm this one single cell and I have an invader or a toxin or something that's making me stop my day job and defend the cell, then I'm going to send out signals to all the cells nearby me to say, hey, watch out for this. This thing is coming. And so these cells get kind of in a fight or flight mode. You know what it's like when your child is in fight or flight. They're fight, flight, or freeze. They're not in rest and digest. So same with our cells at a cellular level, at a body level. And that's the cell danger response. So we're just constantly responding and fighting. And what else do I want to say about that? So we can get stuck in this phase even after we've removed a toxin, even after maybe you've gone on some kind of herbal or antibiotic and, killed whatever it is. And our cells can still be stuck in this mode. We want them to go into a more building anabolic rest and digest mode. So, and that whole cell danger response was elucidated by UCSD researcher Dr. Robert Navio. So maybe you've heard of him, maybe you've seen information on that. There's a lot of information on cell danger response now. It's maybe been at least a decade since he found these mechanisms. So what do? We have to, give calming, quieting things to make the cells respond. We have to give calming, quieting methods, I guess, to help the nervous system overall to go into that rest and digest. And, rest is just one of them, to not have a stressful day, to have time to lie down and rest. I had a client once whose son would come home from school and he would just go in his room. He would practice. He was falling asleep at school. That's how tired he was. And he would go in his room and he just wouldn't come out. Once we got him on a protocol and got some toxins out of his body, he had so much more energy. And at the end of the day, when he got home from school, he would come and play with the family and interact because he had the energy to do that, right? When we're getting rid of these toxins, getting them out of the body, then that's one way we can restore. There are methods that help the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is one of our cranial nerves, and it goes kind of from behind your ear. So if you touch behind your ear, and then it goes down and innervates our whole chest and our whole gut. So that's a two-way communication channel between the gut and the viscera and the brain. And, a lot of times there's many things that can be happening with the vagus nerve, and we want to have good vagal tone, it's called. So we want to have a good tone of the vagus nerve. And one of the things that helps with that, I know there's some stimulation devices that will vibrate here behind the ear or right here on the neck. So tapping is always a good thing. I'll go over a tapping routine in a second, but humming, if your child hums, not necessarily singing, but just humming. So maybe you could hum around the house and and your child might follow suit. Gargling, if your child is able to gargle, that helps the vagal tone. And it just helps to balance our nervous system, which can help to balance the cells. I want to show you a tapping routine. I didn't plan on doing this, but it just came into my consciousness here. So tapping, when we tap with our fingertips, now some kids might not like tapping on the head. It might be too sensitive to them. So I would, instead of tapping, here's the midline tap, I might rub, right? I might just have a little gentle stimulation. And what we're doing here is we're touching various body meridians. So in Chinese medicine and acupuncture, there's energetic meridians and lines by which the energy flows in the body. So you're just opening up those energy flows. So I would start, and you can go ahead and do this with me if you're able to. I would start at the top of the head, And you can even go, you know, all over the head, but the midline for sure. And then I would do back of the head. So those are a couple places on the head itself. And actually anywhere feels really good. For me, it feels really good, not for everybody, but you can tap anywhere. And then another tapping point is the inner eyebrow. And you can tap or you can just rub. And then the outer eyebrow, you can tap or rub. And then below the eye, and you can feel, if you're doing this with me, you can feel the bone, you're tapping on the bone. You can add in the temples, that always feels good, and you can add in the jaw joint right here, the TMJ in front of the ear. And if your child will let you, you can do open and close, like open, close tight, shift your jaw one way, shift your jaw the other way. Move your bottom jaw forward. I look funny. And move your bottom jaw back. So that's one way. That's kind of optional. Don't worry about that one. So we started at the head. We had the inner eyebrow. We have the outer eyebrow. We have under the eye. And then top jaw. So you're going to go above the teeth here. And then bottom jaw. And then below, either on the collarbone or just below, there's a kidney 27 point here. See, I'm already deep breathing. It's making me relax. And then right in the center of the chest, on your breastbone, you have a thymus gland under here, and that's where your immune system cells go to mature. So this is helping to stimulate the immune system. And then I would take your fingers and make like chicken wings. You can't really see, but for you mamas out there who have a bra strap, you're going to tap along the side of the ribs. Let's see if I can turn my phone down a little bit. Right? So you feel like you have chicken wings and you're tapping the sides of your ribs. And just that routine feels so good. I have another routine on my website, on a blog, and it's an energy flow one, and it's a whole body tapping routine where you start at the shoulder and go down the arm and up the arm, and you're really covering every single meridian, and you go through the whole body. So whole body tapping is really good too. It just opens you up. So that's one way to calm down too. Tapping. Of course, the squeezy hugs are really good. So I want to get back to brain inflammation. So when a brain is inflamed, it can't really grow and develop, which I already said. And I don't know if you know Dr. Robert Melillo. He wrote the book Disconnected Kids. So that might be something you want to check out. And what he said is he studied brain development in children, and like one part of the brain will develop for 3 months, and the next part for 3 months, and another part for 6 months. I'm not going in the right order, but he talks about this in the book, that we have periods of development of areas of the brain. So if your child maybe has a fall and has a concussion, has some traumatic event, has a toxin load, maybe it's a childhood injection that has aluminum, which is not good for our bodies. That's not something we should ever put in our bodies, or is exposed to mold or something, and the toxins get in the brain, that area of the brain at that point. Like this is the speech area, kind of right in there. And those toxins sit there, that part of the brain's not going to develop, right? Because it's inflamed. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in that, Disconnected Kids. And then he has brain balance centers, and what they do there, my understanding of what they do there, I've never been there, is that they have kids do repetitive behaviors. So maybe your child can't cross the midline, they'll have your child cross the midline, or maybe take your right hand and touch your left foot. So that's crossing the midline, but that's also a coordination thing, and that helps develop retained reflexes, and it helps develop the brain. But even if you're going to do that, it's like a therapy, right? You're developing the brain. You still need to pull those toxins out to decrease the inflammation. So if you're joined and you're listening now live, I'm happy to take questions. I'm going to talk a little bit about now what to do about the inflammation. I've already talked about brain balance and movements. But what I see is we need to detox the brain, and it's not just, oh, let's just detox the brain right now. It's a process, because you have to open up the rest of the body before you can pull toxins out of here. Otherwise, if you use some agent to pull toxins out of here, it doesn't really have anywhere to go, and it's just going to land back in another place and create more behaviors, and sometimes worse. So yeah, so the good news I wanted to say is that the brain is very capable of continuing this halted development. And the brain is very smart, because if there's an area of the brain that hasn't developed, it's going to find a workaround. It's kind of like a river out in the woods, if it's going to find the path of least resistance. And if that is blocked, it's going to find another path to trickle down. So we pull the toxins out of the brain. We need to make sure we're feeding good nutrients, because we want to build the brain. So we need good amino acids. That's good proteins like collagen and bone broth are really good. Get organic only, organic grass-fed. That also helps the gut heal. We need certain compounds to build neurotransmitters, and our microbes in the gut, the good microbes, help us build those neurotransmitters. They give us the specific type of amino acids we need. Of course, we could take those as a supplement, but we want to have the whole system working together. And of course, we use supplements until we get the gut fixed, until we get certain things working well. And then our body should take care of that naturally. So it's really important to work on healing the gut. Good fats are really important. So that means avoiding corn oil, soy oil, vegetable oil, sunflower, safflower oil, which so many of our snacks, our crunchy snacks that our kids love, are made with. The good oils to use are avocado and olive, coconut, butter, or ghee. If your child isn't doing dairy, you could use ghee. So good fats, that helps build the brain. Our brain has a lot of fat, at least 50% fat. I don't remember the exact number, but we need fat for communication between the cells. We need the proper amino acids to build neurotransmitters. So, my recommendation is really to stop the processed foods that have these bad oils and bad ingredients, because those are just more toxins for the brain, and try and bring in whole, organic, really nourishing foods. Maybe use digestive enzymes if you're seeing undigested food in the stool, because we're giving our kids food. We don't want to see it come out whole on the other end. We want them to actually take nutrients from it. Binders are a key, and binders are like, you may have heard of activated charcoal. This is a good wide use binder, but it's also constipating, and I know so many of our kids have pooping issues. And when I say constipation, if your child isn't pooping every single day, no matter what your pediatrician tells you, I know they say it's okay to poop every 3 or 4 days. It's not, because what happens to all that stuff, instead of going out of the body, it recirculates. So you want your child pooping at least once a day, ideally after every meal. So, 1 to 4 times a day for pooping. So if not, it's constipation. And constipation, even if your child is pooping a lot and it's watery and runny, there could be a lot of impacted fecal matter in the colon and just some things getting out. So getting your child pooping is really key. And then using binders to hold on to toxins so they actually go out of the body. If you've heard me talk before, I talk about binders all the time, and they're so critical and so key. One of the binders we use in our protocol, our parents have dubbed it the magic pill, because when you're actually grabbing onto toxins and they're not recirculating, your child calms down, the aggression calms down, the anxiety calms down. It's like magic, works within 15 to 30 minutes, our parents are telling us. So binders are critical, and the right ones for the right toxins are critical. And you need to work with a practitioner to figure that out. It's you can't tell from the outside. Maybe you'd need to do diagnostic testing for that. All right, I already talked about bad fats. Peanut oil is another bad one, and rancid oils too. Like I've had almond butter around for a while, and then you open it and it smells kind of off. That means the oils have oxidized, so don't put them in the body. Get some new stuff. Use the stuff right away. So I talked about fixing gut dysbiosis, and that that's a process. We have to definitely put in the right microbes, but a diagnostic test will tell you what are the bad guys in there and what are the good guys and suggested probiotics. But then we still need to clean the gut, as in clean the toxins out of there, clean parasites, and parasites are like a big trash bag in the gut. And what they do is they hold mold and Lyme and candida and toxins. And so if we get a parasite out whole, we're getting a whole big garbage bag of things out. So that's helpful. So I see, is activated charcoal a good binder? It is a good binder for certain things. So it won't bind heavy metals, but it'll bind some toxins from microbes. It'll bind a lot of poisons and industrial chemicals. But it's also constipating because it takes water, and that means things aren't going to move as well. Hi again, thanks for the info. Can we get examples of supplements, binders, etc.? Yeah, I'm going to give some right now. Good timing. Okay, gut healing supplements in conjunction with a whole foods diet. Sometimes I use immunoglobulins and colostrum. So camel milk has a lot of really small immunoglobulins, so that helps change the dialogue with the immune system and the microbes. And I know the camel milk immunoglobulins get into the brain, so they can help with inflammation there. And then many immunoglobulins you have to work through a practitioner to get, and they help the dialogue with the microbes and inflammation in the gut. So there's a whole gut healing process that Microbiome Labs has. That's a practitioner brand. And the reason we have practitioner brands, and it's not just something you can buy on Amazon or through the company, is because a lot of these things, the companies want you to have guidance. It's a little more complicated than just taking a pill or opening a capsule and giving it to your child. So it's not like I'm trying to hold things back from you, but it really helps to have a guide, or to work with your practitioner who knows about these things. Bone broth, I mentioned already. Healing amino acids like glycine, glutamine, those are really healing for the gut. And if there's parasites, the glycine can be converted into glutamate, and glutamate's an excitotoxin for the brain. I had a client once who went on glycine because that also helps with glyphosate. It will replace glyphosate in the body. But I think what was happening is her child was having more symptoms because I think that glycine was being converted to glutamate by whatever in the maybe microbes in the gut, parasites, and then it goes in the brain, and that excites the brain, and then you can see things like hyperactivity or more stimming or just uncomfortable symptoms that show that there's something uncomfortable in there. Aloe vera juice is really helpful to heal the gut, but it's also helpful for constipation. Whole leaf, you can get just the inside of the leaf, but you can get the whole leaf, and that's the one that's great for constipation, and it's very healing. Wheat germ is actually healing, and Purium, Purium, has a probiotic that has one of the things in it is wheat germ. And what the wheat germ does is, we have these microvilli in the gut. It's like the shag rug, and it just gives you lots of surface area in the small intestine to absorb food, to absorb nutrients. And these can be chewed down, and the wheat germ helps rebuild those. What else? Let me see what your question was. Binders, I use binders from Cellcore Biosciences because they're fulvic and humic acid based, and they have different groups put on them, and they pull out heavy metals and glyphosate and viruses and chemicals. And so I really love the different ones there, and you need to work with a practitioner to use those. So ask your practitioner about those. How much camel milk would you advise per day? I give 100 mils a day already. I don't usually use camel milk. I usually use the supplements that are the immunoglobulins. So I would check with your practitioner, what they say, who knows your child really well, because I don't know anything about your child, and how much they might need. But you could always experiment. I know the stuff is expensive, but if you wanted to try 150 or 200 mils and see if that made a difference, and if it doesn't, go back down. This is the way I always have people find their doses. We low and slow titrate up. And what does that mean? We add one thing at a time, right? Because if you add 5 supplements at a time and your child goes berserk, how do you know which one did it? So you add one supplement at a time. And oftentimes I'll have parents open the capsule and take a paring knife and take the tip of that paring knife and take that, give their child that amount. And then we just keep giving more and more and more until your child starts to react. We go back down to the previous dose. So this is what I would recommend for the camel milk is, how did you decide on 100 mils, right? Maybe you tried different doses and got up to there, and then you found a good dose, or maybe someone told you use 100 mil. Maybe the company told you, but you can always play with the amount and experiment. So, all right, the other thing I wanted to say is fresh squeezed juice and vegetable juices. So I've been making, and this isn't a supplement, right? But it's actually a healthy thing you can give your child. So I've been really loving celery. So I have a juicer and I put celery, carrots, turmeric root, ginger root, half an apple, and usually a cucumber. And it has a pretty good taste because the carrots, maybe I should make that recipe on my blog. I think I'll do that. And so you could even freeze that as a frozen pop, or add some fruits in there if that is more your child's flavor. Your child loves pineapple, do some pineapple, make some pineapple juice or throw that in with it. I wouldn't have too sweet of a juice, but when we have these whole foods, and juices are easy to give, right? I'd love for you to give the whole food because it has the fiber as well, but you can start with juices. It starts to train the palate that there's all these flavors and there's these nutrients in there. Oftentimes, especially for picky eating kids, I'll recommend there's a gummy vitamin called Juice Plus. So I'll recommend Juice Plus. It just has, or some whole food mineral vitamin combo made with whole foods, because your child's not eating the whole foods, but they are through the vitamin. And so it helps to change the palate. And zinc also might help. All right, I have a 7-year-old with ASD, ADHD, who never really had constipation, diarrhea. He poops after almost every meal, so I think we don't have a gut problem, but still very hyperactive. So you probably have a toxicity problem with your child. And let's see, he poops out. This is great that he's pooping. Awesome. He still could have a gut problem. Not the things I described, not like, okay, he's pooping every day, but there still could be gut dysbiosis, possibly, and there still could be toxins, and there still could be parasites. So hyperactivity, I would actually look at maybe metals, but are you giving your child any artificial flavors, artificial colors? Sugar is a big one. So I would look at what's actually going into his body, and it sounds like it sounds like you're pretty vigilant, and you're giving camel milk, and you kind of know a few things. Hopefully he's on whole foods, but probably for you, Lorla Doll, probably for you, I would recommend a gentle detox process, and maybe you're working with your practitioner on that already. So it's if his gut is great, but maybe not great because you're not seeing it, there can be symptoms we don't see. Then anyway, we have a program if you want to come and do some detox with us. But if you're already working with a practitioner, great. What I do is I help people take toxins in buckets. So we have a bucket here, a bucket here, a bucket here. And what I mean by buckets is might have different microbes in the body. So we're going to focus on maybe yeast right now. And then we're going to focus on parasites, and then we're going to focus on Lyme, or Lyme-like or co-infections, or other types of microbes. And then we're going to focus on heavy metals. So we kind of run the gamut and do all of this. So we're lowering the bucket load of each of those toxins. We take it, a couple months at a time. And sounds like probably a good binder for you. GI detox is also good. Biocidin makes that. And it's kind of well-rounded has different things in it. So that might be good. All right, so to recap, brain inflammation is likely what's going on in our kids with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, sensory processing disorder, and we need to look at what's going on in the gut, because there's this dialogue via the vagus nerve between the gut and the brain. So we likely need to do some fixing of the gut and some detox. And then when we take the inflammation away, guess what? The brain cells can connect and the brain can develop. And I've seen some kids, when we're just pulling toxins out regularly, I've seen like 3 inches of growth in a summer. Like, that's how much they weren't in anabolic or growth mode. I see anxiety reduce. I see a lot of times the aggression. I mentioned earlier, one of the binders we use, people call it the magic pill, because the aggression and anxiety just reduces, within half an hour. And it's because these toxins are floating around and we just grab them, right? So we have more toxins than our body is able to deal with, so we need some help there. Fixing the gut, fixing the brain, helping brain development, and reducing inflammation so brain development can occur. Okay. Please, what really works for nonverbal to start having words? He's 5 years and still nonverbal. Well, it's not just take this one thing and he'll start speaking. It's not that simple, unfortunately. There could be some retained reflexes that need to be integrated, because speech is something that comes along later. There could be methyl B12 could be a great supplement for him. What's he eating on a regular basis? How many toxins are in his body? What's his gut like? Is he pooping every day? So there's a lot of we really need to look at it from a holistic perspective. It's not just I'm going to do these B12 injections and he's going to start talking. Maybe it's folinic acid. Maybe it's he has, some aluminum in his body that needs to be pulled out. I don't know until we dive in and investigate. So typically, what many autism practitioners use for speech is methyl B12 injections, and you need to get those through compounding pharmacy through your physician. So you need to be working with someone who knows about that. Dr. James Newbrander in New Jersey does, and I know that he's an amazing doctor. He's called the grandfather of the methyl B12 because he found out that this really helps kids speak, but it doesn't help everyone. And it doesn't always work because there's something else that needs to be done first. But he's someone you can check out. All right. So thank you everyone for being here. I'll post this as a reel, so it'll be in my feed and you'll be able to look at that. And just got a great idea talking here to put my veggie juice that I love so much in a blog so you can have it. Remember to check out our free resources on autismtransformed.com and YouTube. And I'm doing Instagram Lives every Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific because I'm in Portland in the Northwest. And that's noon Eastern time. So I will see you next week. Bye-bye.